Hello and welcome to another edition of your favourite podcast, Insane in the Membrane, with me, Rich Wilson, and my second in command, producer Paul. Even though I say that on the radio show and on here, it's actually Paul that drives the ship. I just turn up and slot into the gap that producer Paul creates.
I'm at the controls, definitely.
He's at the controls. I don't even go near the controls. If I went near the controls, you wouldn't be able to hear this. It wouldn't even be anywhere near you. So I might have to change that. I'm going to have to change that. I think equal billing. We're like George Clooney and Brad Pitt in the films when you see their names above the title.
Didn't you give it a nautical theme, though? Isn't it not that you're... obviously, it's a bit spooky with me off camera. Is it not that you are the captain of the ship and I'm the helmsman? So
I think, yes.
I think that's where we're going to go.
I think that's right. It is a nautical.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely right.
And navigator.
You are.
Engineer.
You basically do all the work. You're like the drummer from Kaiser Chiefs. He did all the songwriting. And then Ricky Wilson would turn up and sing his tune. Not saying that Ricky didn't add his Magic 2 proceedings. Anyway, going off topic there. Yeah. Well, speaking about musicians, though, I hope you lot are well. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're good. January was so long ago, but it was so long, wasn't it? It was a long one. Well, we're starting getting into spring now. This is what's happening. Spring is coming, and I love spring. Such an air of optimism and opportunity. And I hope we get a hot summer. I hope we get a warm one. I want those ones where we moan that the windows aren't open wide enough because it's too hot. Walking around in our underpants. Too hot. I love all that. Anyway, so as listeners will know, one of my biggest loves, other than comedy, is music. And I love it when we have a musician on where we can just chat all manner of music things. And our guest this week is Neil Jones of the mighty soul band Stone Foundation, who I've sort of known for a few years. We've sort of, as I say on the episode, we sort of oscillated in the same sort of circles around each other. So we sort of know the same people, so to finally get him on to have a proper chat and really get to know him was an absolute, was a joy, an absolute joy. And because I could talk about music all day. And some of the people that he's worked with, and the fact that he's been working with Paul Weller now, and he's got Mick Talbot of the Style Council actually in his band now. The names he was dropping today are just incredible to me. They are incredible to me. I know producer Paul kind of glossed over a little bit when we mentioned Nolan Porter and Omar, and I think Paul got excited when Boats were mentioned, but we didn't stay on that topic for too long. But we want to thank you for still continuing to listen to us in our 6th year doing this, Insane in the Membrane, going from strength to strength. We want to thank our patrons for being so supportive. We want to thank you all for being so supportive and all the lovely messages that we get from people telling us that they're enjoying the show still after all this time. We really appreciate it. If you do want to message me, just drop us a line. You can get us on Membrane Podcast on Instagram. You can get me on Instagram. I am Rich Wilson. There's my website, richwilsoncomedian.com. Drop us a line on all of these if you want, if there's anything you want us to talk about, or anything you've enjoyed, or anything you've not enjoyed. If you want to, if something that was said that you didn't like, we'll have a conversation. This is what this podcast is all about. It's all about, the fundamental thing is mental health. And if there's something on it that upset you or something that you enjoyed, then give us a shout and we'll have a chat. This is why we do it, and if it's helped you in any way, let us know, because it spurs us on to keep going. I love doing this, and the more, as long as you want us to keep doing it, we'll keep doing it. So thank you to everybody. So that's enough waffling. You can check out also my website to see where I'm going to be gigging. I'm probably going to be gigging near you. Wherever you are listening to this now, I'm probably going to be gigging near you at some point. So check out my website. All my dates are on there. There's links to everything that we do, including our Radio Bath show. If you haven't listened to it on Radio Bath or at the actual time, you can get it on Mixcloud. It's all the links are there. Links to everything we do. And producer Paul, you can even book him. You can book him for I don't know what you can book him for. Don't book him for anything weird. He's not into that. Although I don't know, maybe he will be. Depends if the money's right.
Boat trips.
There you go. He'll give you a boat trip of the West Country, up and down the canals of Bath and surrounding areas. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with today's episode. So coming up in a minute is Neil Jones from Stone Foundation. I tell you, this has been a long time coming. This one. And it,
Since I last seen you on the tube.
yeah, this is. Do you know what's funny? I was thinking about that this morning because I'm like, when did I last see him? Yeah, bumping into you on the tube, and what it made me realise today that there's like a group of us that we sort of know each other and we sort of oscillate in similar circles, but
Yeah.
there's musicians and there's comedians and there's artists and there's all manner of people, actors and all sorts. Just kind of, we're all sort of aware of each other, and it's a really nice thing to be a part of. You know, like
Yeah, it's cool,
you know what I
mate.
mean? Yeah, because when I saw you, because obviously I knew you, and you with Johnny, and I can't remember who else you were with.
It was Johnny and Mark Webster. I'd just been on Talk Sport.
That's it.
So I was like, I'd just been on Talk Sport with them, and I was on the tube, and you just jumped off the other way. I was like, "Oh, right, mate, how you doing? I haven't seen you in ages."
But it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. I always think back to the first time that we sort of met each other was actually on a film set, and we were doing Outside Beth.
Yeah, my God.
And that was with the late, great Bob Hoskins. There's a name drop.
Mate. Yeah. And Dudley Sutton as well.
Dudley Sutton, Bob Hoskins. And I was mortified because I used to have like a Beatles haircut, Beatles-style haircut. And they wanted everything to be a specific sort of look for the shoots. And we all had to, what race course was it at? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Esher out that way, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like we were at this race course, and obviously you go into this sort of area where all these makeup and hair people are. And I literally got turned into what can only be described as a mod wolf. Literally everything was flicked back. And I was like, what the hell? I look like Michael J. Fox in Teen Wolf. And I had to go down onto the set with you and a load of other folk, and we had to sort of dress the set, didn't we? We were all extras.
That's it. Yeah.
Pretend that we were sort of paying bookies and whatnot. And I never forget, like, Bob Hoskins walking past us all, and he was lovely, and he was like, all right, everyone, all right. And it was just such a crack. Oh, it was such a mental experience.
It was one of those, yes, it was bizarre, wasn't it? And I remember, because I had to shave off my beard. And I had the same thing because I had the Oasis haircut. So I had to slick mine back. Yeah. And I did all that. And then, then we were down on the course because we were bookies. And then so we stood there. There's Bob Hoskins and Dudley Sutton. And big Tom Davis, who's now gone on to be, big old famous Tom Davis. Yeah. And he's there, and we're all there. And I remember saying to Bob, I went, "Oh, it's fucking cold, isn't it, mate?" And he went like that. He just went like that, and he laughed. And then you were like, "I'm stood here with Bob Hoskins." And then we went through all that, and then when the film came out, I had a look, my elbows in it. That was it.
Yeah, I think I got a side profile shot because, like, I actually had to pause it, and I was like, there I am. But you were there for like the whole day.
Yeah.
I mean, the one good thing that came out of it for us, for like thinking of Stone Foundation, was Callum was there that day. Callum McNabb. He was in the Football Factory, weren't he?
That's it.
And he was the leading actor in it, and he ended up. We sort of asked him on the day through Mark Baxter, who was there, obviously, because he wrote the book that the film was being made. We asked him if he'd star in one of our videos, and he did. So he's forever. So he's forever in Stone Foundation folklore as being in one of them early videos.
But I think that's what I mean. There's things like that all the time. It's like, do you want to come and do this? Do you want to come and do that? Like we all went up and did Jawbone with Johnny Harris.
Yes. I got bollocks on that set.
Did you?
Ian McShane was there, and like I was saying to you earlier, I've got my relegation mug today. Me United's relegation mug. Ian McShane was obviously there, and he's got a really close affinity with United.
Yeah,
so I was quite excited that we were on this set with Ian McShane because he's always been, I've always really liked him. And right at the end of that day, if you remember, we were at the church in the middle of Birmingham, Jewellery Quarter. And right at the end of the day, we're told, obviously, throughout the filming, no cameras on set, blah, blah, blah.
That's it.
And right at the end of the day, they brought him out, 'cause it was the last day of filming, this centenary Man United framed and signed picture And I was just like, oh my God. And I had this perfect shot of him as he gets it. It was like massive, it was. And he's turned around with it like that. It was a big smile on his face. And just got the camera and clicked it. And this girl appeared out of nowhere and she went, delete that now. And I was like, oh my God. And she went, no, I want to see you delete it now. She made me delete it.
No, mate. What? That wouldn't have hurt, would it? You're not going to put it anywhere.
Gutted, mate.
It was one of those. It was a good day. I remember that we all piled up there, and then Johnny came through, and he was having a chat with us all, and he's such a lovely fellow, isn't he, Johnny Harris?
Great bloke,
brilliant actor, and he come through and he said hello, and then after that he was just in the zone. He was like that. He was the character, wasn't he? And he just I remember stood there in that graveyard. And we're all going, mate, this is proper acting. He's proper having it. But what was funny is that everyone was talking in the green room wherever we were, having a bit of dinner, having a bit of food in that. And then everyone's going, oh yeah, Ray Winston's in this. And as he went through, everyone's like, yeah, where is Ray? And then it turned out we're in the funeral scene. I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Ray's not there anymore.
Ray's not here. Ray's in the box.
No,
I
do remember that day. Sorry to interrupt you. I do remember that day because, like, you're talking about Johnny.
Yeah.
And I do remember having this feeling. I wanted to go and put my arm around him because he was that like it actually made me feel like someone had died.
Yeah. It was such an insight into what an actor goes through, wasn't it? When he had his iPod in. So he's obviously getting into it, and he's bringing out all those, all the emotions that he's supposed to be feeling. And I was just watching him like, mate, look at that. That is incredible. And what was funny is that we were all stood around, and then we were in, like, because we were all supposed to be mourners, weren't we? But it was done in such a beautiful way. Like, we were all spread out like a proper movie in amongst all like that, was because it was a bit foggy, and it was in the middle of winter, wasn't it? And it looked the bollocks. And I remember talking to, I can't remember his name. Oh, he's going to hate me for that. We were talking to each other, and he goes, Rich, I don't mean to be rude. He goes, but the cameras are behind us. We weren't even in that either.
Yeah, no, I don't know whether, I can't remember freeze framing that. I didn't get as excited because I think by that time then I was thinking, yeah, I probably won't say yes to being an extra. Because
you got told off. It's
like, well, I think it's just in general. You go to a film set, don't you? I mean, I used to do a bit of acting when I was a kid. I played at like the Birmingham Repertory Theatre and stuff like that, and I loved doing all that. And that was kind of the thing it was either that or being a musician. I loved, like, I think we all crave to be like the centre of attention, don't we, really? Us blokes who decide to do these weird things in life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe there's that aspect. But, I always wanted to be an actor. So as soon as someone says, do you want to come on a film set, spend a day, you're like, yeah, I'd love to do that. And after the second time, I realised that it's just freezing cold. You never really get seen. You never get to do much. You're literally just like a little bit of window dressing. Really.
I will say to their credit, to Mark Baxter's credit, and to Johnny Harris as well, the lovely fellas. And we are in the credits. They put us in the credits.
Yeah, that's lovely.
You can go. I remember I'd screenshot my name in the thing. I'm like, there you go. I'm in Jawbone. There you go, Mum. And
I mean, both of those guys in question have been absolutely fantastic supports to our bands. I know, to yourself, and they're just genuinely nice blokes who are always kind of there to sort of give a helping hand, and also some encouragement as well. I mean, I was only speaking with Johnny Harris a few days ago. He's working on some new film at the moment. He never stops, I don't think. But I was talking to him about our Shepherd's Bush gig at the end of the year, and he's sending me messages saying, I don't mind paying, I'll pay and come and watch it. I'm like, oh, come on, Johnny, I don't mind. I'll stick you on the guest list, mate.
I mean, that's it. But that just goes to show the level of him, doesn't it? It's like, he's a very sweet man. Which was weird because when I first became aware of him was obviously in This Is England, and he played one of the most awful people on the planet, which again, but again was such a masterclass in acting that he was able to do that. And then when I met him, I'm like, my God, what a sweet man. So it was a surprise
lovely,
when it was like,
lovely fella.
yeah. Also, what I find amazing, and you must have moments when you're the same. It's been really nice seeing the build up, the success that Stone Foundation have finally achieved. And then there must be a moment. I remember I saw a picture of you, and it was you and Paul Weller, and you were in the whole band. You're really having it, and I went, "That's weird, man. That I know him, and he's with Paul Weller." And then and I'm like, "But Paul Weller's been in my life since I was 5 years old."
Yeah, I have moments. I've had moments throughout the course of the past. I mean, we've just recorded our 5th studio album at Paul's studio, at Black Barn Studios. So that's coming out this year, which is great, out in March, and it's like end of March, and it's honestly the amount of times I'm in there and he'll be floating about, and he has this sort of tendency on our records to sort of come in with a cup of tea and go, "Can hear a little bit of piano on that, Neil, or a little bit of guitar," is it? And he'll end up like putting stuff. He's been on literally all the last however many records we've done in the studio.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. I think the sort of point I do have moments where like he's become a really good mate, and he is an absolutely, genuinely wonderful fella. He has done so much for this band. Excuse me. But I do still have moments throughout the course of my time knowing him where, like, so for argument's sake, last year we toured in Italy, and we supported him in Milan.
Wow.
And it's never happened before, but he came into as we were like sort of in the dressing room, he just walked into the dressing room and he goes, "Jonesy, Broken Stones tonight, son." And I went, "What?" He went, "Get up and sing it with us." And I was like, "What?" And he went, "Yeah, you're a bit." And I went, "Yeah, sounds." And it just so happened that my mum and dad were there at the gig. So, like, I was trying to keep this secret from my mum who come in the dressing room. Absolutely no chance. And she saw it on the wall. And, like, it took me back to being, like, I remember being, like, 18, 19. And my mum and dad would try and work out if he was in London, or I've heard he's going to be at a bowling alley and we should go along and see, or he's going to be at this gig. And, they'd take me to like gigs that he was at or guesting at or whatever, just in the hope that I could meet him. Do you know what I mean? And now fast forward to this point where I'm like in the dressing room, this massive gig in Milan, and my mum's like starting to hyperventilate when she sees me now, because he pins the set list to the wall, and under Broken Stones it's got Jonesy, and I'm like going, "Oh shit." So the weirdest thing that happened that night though was like I've done our set, so we did our Stone Foundation set, which went down great. And then I went backstage and they've gone on.
Oh, it's gone off.
Hang on, he's disconnected.
Okay.
Sorry about that, mate. That was
right,
a phone
mate.
call. It weren't Robbie Williams. But the mad thing is, like, where was I? So as the songs are being checked off as we're making our way down his set list, I'm looking at it thinking, shit, I best just go over this. So I got my phone and I went into the toilet next door backstage. It was quite a small corridor. And I'm in there and I'm absolutely bollocking out Broken Stones because I'm thinking, shit, it's actually in a higher register than I remember. So I'm like in there doing this. And I hear the door being knocked. And I'm like really giving it some welly. And I open the door and this Italian lady, bless her, had fainted out the front of the auditorium. And there was like 3 stewards, her, me folks, Paul's manager, they're all stood round just going, any chance we can use the toilet? And I'm like bollocking out Pebbles on a beach at the top of my voice.
I'm a bit busy in a minute. I'm a bit busy. Can you...
Yeah. But it was that night in particular was really cool. I remember like, a few of the lads turning around and saying to me and his band, "It's about time he asked you." And it was just, it's just been a lovely like thing that we've had for the last. God, I mean, it's almost coming up to in 2027. It's going to be 10 years since he produced our Street Rituals record.
Has that been 10 years already?
It's almost 10 years. So we're 8 years since that.
Bloody hell!
It's mad that, isn't it?
That's gone far too quickly. I mean, I remember that, the hype around that. I remember it. What? Just,
Yeah, I know.
no,
Well, I think last time I seen you, Rich, we didn't have any grey hair.
No, we didn't. And now look
Look
at
at
us.
that. Now it's all coming on there, isn't it? Look at that.
I'm like Captain Birdseye. Look at it.
I quite like it, mate. I like the beard. It's a strong look.
It's well, you mentioned acting before, and you
Yeah.
wanted to be an actor. And then, is there a moment where you go, I don't think this is going to pan out, and you know, like you've set your hopes on it, and then it kind of, or did you just kind of like just naturally just go towards becoming a musician like that? You were doing that. What was this? What was the?
Yeah, I think
Through
it was
line with that.
probably a natural. I think it was probably a natural thing. I remember fumbling my way into college and thinking, what am I going to do? And I remember going to some drama classes and drama groups, but I couldn't get into like some of the bigger routes then that you would probably take. Do you know what I mean? To get into those avenues. Like I say, I did a load of like theatre work when I was a kid, it was great. I remember playing Mr. Christian in Mutiny on the Bounty.
Oh wow, that's a role.
And then we did like Blood Brothers as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
We did
yeah.
a version of that on stage. Willie Russell, that isn't it?
That's it.
And then loads of other stuff. But it just kind of, it was the other thing I was absolutely fanatical about was football and like,
Yeah.
and I loved sport and I've always loved sport. So I ended up sort of betwixt and between and sort of found my way into college doing like sport and stuff like that. I think the initial course was a City and Guilds course.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was sports and leisure management. So I always told people I knew how to manage my leisure time. And it was a bizarre, honestly, it was, I mean, here's another weird thing, right? So I went to Ralston campus at Burton Technical College, and they had a campus, Ralston campus. And at the time I was there, the main lecturer was a guy called John Barton.
Right.
And Mr. Barton, as we all called him, used to play fullback for Everton. So,
Right.
like, he used to come up to me. He was an absolute bastard, a brilliant guy. I loved him to bits. But he was a bastard because he knew how to get you. And if he caught you messing about in the corridors, he'd say, "Oh, Mr. Jones, down for 10." And you'd have to do 10 push-ups in the middle of the corridor.
Oh, mate.
And he'd put his foot on your back. So, like, you know what I mean? And there'd always be, like, really nice girls walking past us. I mean, you'd be, like, there sweating trying to do these push-ups. But the other mad thing was that I was doing my sport course, and on the other courses, they were doing art and graphic design and things like that, and film. My mate Chad, who was my best mate from school, he went into those courses, or that side of the college. And who was on his course but Paddy Considine
Wow.
and Shane Meadows.
Oh my God.
And I didn't realise at the time, obviously, because you don't go on,
No, of
because he
course.
wasn't, none of them were famous.
No.
But like, I remember there was a lad on my course who had like, he was like a rocker geezer. He had proper massive Mohican, and he used to knock about with Shane Meadows, and they'd walk around the grounds and stuff. And I always remember looking at them thinking, oh, they look quite cool. They're in
Yeah.
something else, they are. You know what I mean? Where we'd just be running around like nutters, you know, like the sports lads on campus. But yeah, it's just a really mad thing. Chad tells me all these stories about going on field trips with Paddy and stuff like that
Mate.
back in the day, which is like bizarre where they've ended up.
Yeah. And it's funny though that Paddy then started his own, and then he got into music himself, started his own band, and has been doing that lately. I'll tell you what, there's a tune of theirs called Heed, which is a banger, absolute banger.
Right.
And normally actors that become musicians, you kind of go, I don't know about that. I think I'm still tainted from the 80s when all the soap stars were banging out singles, you know, for people from Neighbours and all that. So when an actor goes, I've got an album coming out, you're like, I don't think I want to listen to that.
Nah, yeah.
But yeah,
exactly.
actually, yeah. But then this is the thing, like, you're fanatical about your football, and a lot of, like, Mark Baxter and everybody, they're all about the football. I think this is where a lot of people struggle to kind of talk to me, because I really tried to be into football. I really tried, but it just didn't talk to me. I just didn't connect with
I mean,
it. You know,
that's fair enough,
Yeah.
mate. I mean, there's lads in the band in our band that just cannot stand football. I mean, Ian Arnold, our keyboard player, is not into football. Tony, our sax player, he just knows one phrase. So whenever there's a group of us watching footy, like say when the Euros is on or something, you just hear him in the back going, well, the problem is they just try and pass it in the goal. And that's my Gloucester accent of Tony's, and it's just really funny. But I mean, it's fair enough. I mean, like the thing is, us guys have got so much in common anyway. Whether it's like clobber, whether it's fashion, you know, or like music or films or God knows what else, you know. You don't have to be into them all, do you?
No. But I find football's the one that is the easiest for people to connect with you with. Like the other day, I did a gig. I was up in Hull the other day, and there was a bloke from exactly where I'm from, and his missus is from Sheffield, and she was watching me. This is what she was saying afterwards. She goes, I was listening to you. I'm like, he's from Bromley. And then the guy went, are you? And I went, yeah, Bromley. And he went, and straight away, second question, what's your team? And I went, mate, I went Palace, because I just thought I don't need the aggravation. So I always go Palace, because that's where I'm from, and I go Palace.
Oh, right, okay.
But then he's got follow-up questions, and in the end, I had to go, mate, I'm into it. I'm aware. Yeah. I'm not followed it in years, not since school, really. But I've got, but that, you know, but I like the characters that used to be in football. So the first football sticker I ever had was Vince Hilaire, Crystal Palace, which is why sort of Palace is sort of in the background for me all the time. But, I've just,
I mean, it's like it's something that's been sort of it's sort of like always been around in my life, because when I finished university, I ended up going out to America for 6 months as a football coach.
Oh, mate!
I did a thing called like North American soccer camps, which was a right good crack. You know, it's like just like going out and teaching little kids how to play football in the States, and I was mainly in the north part of America. So how old would I have been? 19, 20. I was about 20 years old. So I was still under the legal drinking age out there. So I used to try and sneak into pubs and stuff like that, and bars and whatnot. But it was a brilliant crack. There was a guy on that course who I just connected with instantly. I you know, like in life, you just lose contact with people.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the dude's name, and I can't remember where he actually lived in Liverpool, but he was a Scouser. And he brought his acoustic guitar with him. And at the end of each session, me and him would take it in turns playing songs for the kids, having the crack with them, which is brilliant, you know. We'd be doing like Yellow Submarine and stuff like that for the kids. But yeah, brilliant times. I think like when you're younger, you sort of, I mean, like what you do for a living, I could not do that if you paid me. I think it's one of the most scariest professions. I mean, I'm quite fortunate that we've got a couple of like guys who I know you'll know who follow the band in your profession along with yourself.
Right. Yeah.
So there's Josh Pugh, who's obviously a massive star now, isn't he, in his own right?
Yeah.
He finished his recent tour because he's from Atherstone. So I'm from Tamworth. Is from Atherstone. And he finished his recent tour with Beverly. So he played our track Beverly at the end of each night. He had like this, you know, like they have like the montages on the screen and stuff. And it was about his firstborn child and where he's from and all that. And he played our song, which I just thought was really a beautiful thing. And then the other one who like, I mean, this has got to be one of the most bizarrest things. They happen constantly with this band. We went and played in Mallorca last year. No, it was the year before, actually.
Yeah.
And we're playing this gig in Mallorca for some friends of ours who run a hotel called La Concha Sol Hotel in Peguera in Mallorca. It's a really cool place. We first met these guys in Zaragoza when we were on tour in Spain, and they invited us to come over to this hotel that they've got and play a festival. They were putting on this small festival. So we get to this place, we set up and we're playing this festival and everything's going great. But just before we went on to the stage, our merch guy, Pete, messaged the band, Fred, and he said, there's a few people out the front here that reckon John Bishop's here. And
No.
I went, and we look at the Fred and I go, that's got to be bollocks. John Bishop's not going to be we're in the middle of nowhere in Mallorca, like, you know what I mean? So I'm going to the lads, nah, it's not John Bishop. So anyway, we're getting ready to go on the stage. Everyone hugs each other. We're going on, and there's still a few people go, do you reckon it would? Nah, it's not him. Anyway, we start playing, and we're about 4 songs in, and this guy sort of parts the crowd and makes his way down to the front with his camera. He's got his camera up, and as he pulls it down, I just look at him and go, bloody hell, it's John Bishop. So I turned round and I looked at shoes and I went, it is John Bishop, it is while we're playing. And ever since then, he's sort of come and seen us when we play in London and stuff, and he's been really supportive. So it's, but like going back to my initial point, like, and I said it to him and I've said it to Josh and I'll say it to you, is like, I don't know how you have the balls to go on stage in front of people and do what you do, because I would be petrified.
I don't know how I do it, and if I think about it, I won't do it. It's like, there's been a couple of times when I've been on stage and I've had an out of body experience where my brain's gone, "What are you doing?" And I'll be like, fuck, not now, mate, not now. We've got to think about what we're doing. And then the audience go really far away, like real like tunnel vision. And I'm like, mate, not fucking now. Let's pull it together. Keep it down. So I don't know how I do it. But then
I wonder if it's a similar thing to like us, is like, so we've got some gigs at the start of the year, which is March, Cambridge and Leicester. We just got some warm-up dates, and I guess you would do the same thing as a comedian, get your material, and you know exactly what you're doing. Those first 2 dates I always find are the hardest dates of the year, because it's almost like jumping out of an aeroplane without a parachute. And you like just think, we're doing loads of new stuff tonight. And then as soon as you get into that flow of like every night, I know what's coming next in this set list. We know what it becomes natural then. But that early thing, I don't know whether it's the same for you, where you just think, oh my God, I'm going to be sick.
When you try new material and you have to push yourself as well, because you get comfy with all your old stuff, and then you go, and then you get to a point going, so if I say these words one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. So you have to push yourself to do new stuff. And the night you go up and do it is so horrible, because you go, right, I've had this idea. And in the end, I'm like, right, if I just say it, luckily I got this regular gig on a Monday in Kingston that I MC. So I could have an idea and go, I'm just going to talk about that tonight. Because because I'm MCing, it doesn't have to have
like
an
the
end.
Pressure's off.
It doesn't have to have an end. I can go, I was thinking about this the other day, and what do you think? And now I can talk to the audience about it. And 9 times out of 10, because they're regulars as well, they go, well, you should say this, this, and this. And I'm like, fuck, so we're like writing the material together. It's a really nice thing, which is a bit, you wouldn't be able to do that with yours, but with the band. So let's talk about, where did the band start? How did that come to be? So you went off to do your football.
Yeah.
And the music's always been there in the background, I imagine. And then, what happened?
I went to Preston University, and I started playing guitar. And I remember playing one of the first ever gigs. There was like an open mic night in a pub, and there was a guy playing who was a really great guitar player. And I got up, and I've never been so scared in my life. And I was like shaking, and I didn't know what to do. And this guy was really lovely, and he sat me down at the end, and he said, look, you need to get past the nerves thing. And he said, the only way you're going to do that is by playing more in front of people. And he said, my advice to you would be to go busking. And I was like, what? And he went, seriously, he said, if you think about it, when you busk, there's no one who's paid, who's sat in there watching you.
Yeah.
You know, someone could literally come up to you if they don't like you and put one on you. Do you know what I mean? So like, he just said, honestly, he said, if you can busk, you can do anything. And I thought, that's not a bad analogy, really. So I thought, right, I'm going to go and do it. So I remember we had a house full of lads, great lads, always remained firm friends with my uni mates. And I got the bus into town that day, and we were all skins. So I thought, I might make a few quid. and I paid about £1.20 to get the bus into Preston Town Centre. I bussed all day, and I remember saying to the lads, just come down and support me. I'm absolutely shitting myself. Just come and support me. None of them turned up. They all stayed in bed all day.
No.
And I made enough money to get the bus back home. Because it's all 2s and 5Bs and shit like that. And that was my busking experience. But I've got to say, it worked. Because from that moment on, I really got the bug then. And I thought, right, I can play in front of people and I feel confident. And then my first band, we formed pretty quickly after that when university finished. I moved back to Tamworth. And my mate Jamie's old man was having an 60th birthday party. And we were like, right, okay, brilliant, let's do it. So we sort of got together for this gig. And then we formed my first band, which was a band called Walrus Gumboot, which was taken from a lyric from Come Together by the Beatles.
Nice.
So we did that for X amount of a couple of years. And then we ended up supporting a band called Dance Dancing. It was Mandrake Root in London at the Laurel Tree, and it was Sheezy's band. And we kind of sort of spoke after he came in the dressing room, and he said some nice things about me and as a front man, and then we sort of kept in touch really. And I think he knew that was starting to fall apart a little bit, that band. Right. And then we sort of spoke to each other. He rang me up and he said, would you like to come round and try and write some songs together? So it was really funny because those first few writing sessions with Shees, because I really wanted something that I was going to take seriously. That band that I'd just been in was with all my mates, do you know what I mean, from when we were growing up. And some of them were getting married and others weren't really asked about full-time gigging. And I wanted something that I was going to devote my life to. And me and Shees just hit it off. And the early writing sessions was like, if you can imagine Smith and Jones, like when they used to do the head-to-head thing, like literally us two like that. We'd have a dictaphone in the middle of the table and some pads, and that's how we'd write. And I'd pick up a guitar, he'd pick up his bass or a little guitar, and it just kind of took off from there, really. And we never looked back. Well, it's been like, you know, Rich, it's like anything in it. It's bloody hard work. You know what I mean? It's like you've got to really love what you're doing, because the band that started 26 years ago isn't the band that you see now. Do you know what I mean? The only defining elements are me and Shees. Yeah. I mean, they did, Mono Media did a film about us. It's on Amazon Prime at the moment.
Right, yeah.
And it's called Rise Above It, and it's 25 years of Stone Foundation, which is really cool to have a film on the box that people can watch about the band. It's got some hideous haircuts, but some brilliant memories. And so we've it's just been years and years of hard work, refining the lineups, changing ideas of where we want to go, and you know, I reckon probably about 7 albums ago is when the sound really clicked, and we were like, right, this is kind of what we want to be now, and we kind of went down that soul route even more. Yeah.
I mean, it's what you mentioned, the amount of work it takes, because people go, oh, look at you got #1 albums and you got this, you got that, and you go, yeah, but I had to sleep at Nottingham bus station once. I had to drive all the way to Liverpool for no money. I had to drive. I remember I'd fucked up a gig for this fella that was up in Ulverston, which is like Kendal, which is like near Cumbria.
Yeah.
And I said to him, look, I tell you what, to make up for it, I'll do the next one for nothing. And he went, yeah. No, that's really kind of you. Thank you. I didn't know how far away it was. I've gone all the way up there. I'm like, oh, fuck me, I've done it. Right, okay. To his credit, bless him, he gave me petrol money, but it's still that the effort that goes in to do it, to get in where we go, to get to where we are now, where
it's unreal,
easy, mate.
It's honestly that the stories I could tell you. I mean, it's quite funny how you might have noticed, but on this tour that we're doing this year, I mean, it's fucking like pinch yourself tackle, really. But we've got Mick Talbot's joined the band,
mate. I mean, how mad is that?
And that's mental, isn't it? Really. I mean, the amount of times, like last year, we were on tour with him, and he kept saying to me, "Oh, we're only doing bits and bobs with him." So like, I'd book him in for stuff, and then he'd be moaning at me the next time I seen him, saying, I really missed it last weekend when I weren't with you, and I said, right, we're going to book you for everything next year. Is that all right? And he was like, yeah, perfect.
Man.
So we booked him in for the whole of this year's tours. And the amount of times I've had conversations with him and with his mate Paul about the early part of this band's career, where I remember we'd pull a transit van up to wherever the room was we were playing in, to go to gigs.
Yeah.
We had a big red sofa, and we put this sofa in the back of the transit van, and then we'd stack amps, and we had an Hammond organ player called Mark Wallace, right?
Oh my God.
We'd have to put a C3 into the back of the van
with the cabinet as well.
Yeah, and because everything was like almost like felt like it was going to fall on you. Mark was a big bloke. We'd just shove him up against everything to stop anything from killing us in the back of the van. Because if you think about it, if an amp falls on you,
on
a sofa, and everyone was very, very partial in the early days to the jazz cigarettes as well.
Oh yeah,
so if a copper pulled you over and the back of that van opens, it's like an opium den, with loads of like bloody illegal immigrants in the back. Do you know what I mean? And everyone just piles out the van. I mean, it was mental, really. But the mad thing is, when I was telling this story to Mick and Paul, and they both go, "Oh God, yeah, I remember that." And Mick's looking at it, going, "Yeah, you remember when we used to get such and such over? They'd like slide people into the gap between the kit and the roof." Do you know what I mean?
What?
And these are people that you look at and think, you never did that, surely. But everyone has to pay the dues, and everyone has to start with this ridiculous situation where you sort of almost like risking your life to go and do something you love.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I've been in some mad places trying to get to a gig just so that the booker would book me again in 6 months' time, and the amount of shit I've done to get it. And when I remember, talking about the cabinet on a Hammond, I remember some of my mates are in a band called Maker, and they had Anthony, who was their keyboard player, and I'm helping them down the stairs at the 100 Club, the metal stairs. And I'm coming down with the cabinet, and he goes, if this goes, we're all dead. And I just remember, I'm like, this is going to go any minute. And just so loading all that shit into a van. And then, oh, mate. But all bands have been through it. And then when they look back, all bands say the same thing. They go, those are the best stories.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, mate. And then, I mean, like, obviously, we had years and years of that. And then we finally sort of decided that we need to kind of up the ante here. We need somehow for more people to recognise what we're doing, I remember the first time we got the horn section in, and we were like, right, let's get down a list of people that are playing at venues. So we'd look at people that we thought realistically we could get a support with. So we'd look at people like Wilco. So we supported Wilco Johnson quite a few times,
Yeah.
He's fucking nuts. But brilliant.
Good nut.
I mean, we supported him at Cox's Yard in Stratford upon Avon.
Right.
And we had to get up and do our sound check first, which is unusual because it's usually the other way around. So we were told whenever we supported Wilco that Norman Watroy and him and the drummer would always use our back line. Do you know what I mean? That was kind of the payoff.
Okay.
So we're like, right, okay. So I knew Wilco would be using my amp, and we did our sound check. And then the promoter come over to me looking a bit wound up, like, and he was like, oh God. And I went, everything all right? And he went, yeah, I don't think Wilco's going to be making sound check. He's gone to Stratford in London rather than Stratford. He got on the wrong train and he got to Stratford.
Oh, mate.
And I was like, what?
That's not even round the corner.
No. So he turned up like about 10 minutes before he went on stage. He was absolutely brilliant, by the way, every night he played he was dynamite. I loved him, like watching him play. But he came up and like anyone who's ever spoken to Wilco, he's really like 100 mile an hour. And to me, it, like being such a young kid and like looking up to him so much, it almost sounded like the Tasmanian devil himself had come up to me and gone like this. And I was like, right, okay. And I was just trying to show him the knobs on my amp and shitting myself at the same time. But yeah, so we did that. We had loads of supports with people. Steve Gibbons' band was another one. Loads of the old school sort of bluesy sort of type guys. And then we got told that we could do some work with some of these American soul singers that were coming over. And we sort of jumped at the chance of that. So that's how we end up working with like Nolan Porter.
Wow, man.
And we ended up working with a guy called Joe Harris, who we did a BBC session with. Now, Joe was he was the lead singer of The Undisputed Truth, and they were the band that Norman Whitfield, basically, they were like his sounding board before he gave the Temptations all their big hits.
Wow, man.
So they were doing stuff like Ball of Confusion and tunes like that.
Yeah.
Their big song was Smiling Faces.
Oh, tune, mate.
And honestly, mate, the cracks that we had with those guys, they were just like one of the band by the end of it. I always remember Joe Harris. It's a funny story, man. They're like Joe Harris, like this sort of soul icon to me. I mean, there's so many great covers with him on the front where the first Undisputed Truth record, there's him and the two girls sat around his campfire, and it's just like, as a kid, when you see something like that, it's just, and the music and everything. So this guy walks in the room, and we picked him up from the airport, and I got him to stay at my mate Scott's house. Like, what I would do is, because Scott was a single guy, and I was still living at home with my mum and dad, I'd get these soul legends to crash at Scott's house for the week when they came over. So we had Nolan Porter stop there. He had a guy called Steve Calloway, who was in the Professionals. But Joe Harris stopped at Scott's house for this week. And for some reason, I just said to him, there's this iconic place in Tamworth. It's called the Dugout Chip Shop. I will take you for fish and chips, Joe. And he went, okay, man. Yeah, that's great. So we took this guy. He had a 3/4 length leather jacket on, right? He looked like the bollocks, basically. And we've took him into the car park. We walked into the Dugout Chippy, and there's this massive queue in there because it's like the chip. It was the chip shop to go back in the day to go to. And we walked into this Chippy, and we're in the queue, and we get to the front. And I said to him, I goes, so do you want fish and chips, Joe? And he went, yeah, man, that'd be great, man. He's never had them before in his life. And I went, what about mushy peas? And he went, mushy peas? What the hell's mushy peas? And I said to the lady behind the counter, excuse me, Bob, is there any chance you can just show Joe? She went, yes, no problem. She's gone to the back and slopped this green shit into this tub, turned round and slid it across the counter to him. And honestly, picked it up in front of this packed fish and chip shop. And he went, what the fuck is this shit? And we were all just crying. So that was the first experience with Joe.
Oh, mate.
But all these guys were just like amazing, and it was like going to school because I picked up so much as a front man off all of them because they all had little different things that they do live, and it was just an honour to sort of share the stage with them, really.
But isn't it amazing that, like you say, all that hard work you put in really paid off. Playing with people that, like as you said, like that we've grown up with, people that exist. They existed on another planet. I'm never going to bump into them. They live elsewhere. They live on Venus or wherever they live. But there must have been a point with the band when you were there's a moment when you're just freezing cold in the van, or you just think, what is a fucking point? This is doing my head in. Or did you never have that? You know what,
really? Rich? I don't know whether it's ever happened with you, but sometimes it always feels fated. So, we have the first period of the band, and then all of a sudden some guy says, do you want to work with some, like, these soul legends? And we go, yeah, we'll do it. And that's a low point where you're thinking, where are we going next? Then that period happens, and then there's a bit of a lull, and we're like, well, what's going to happen next? and we were playing at the Fiddler's Elbow, and John Bradbury, bless him, he's no longer with us, the drummer at the Specials, walks into the Fiddler's Elbow and asks us to do the frigging arena tour with the Specials. That was in 2011. And it always felt like any time we were just about to kind of look at each other and go, where's this going? Something or someone. And then, like, fast forward to, like, 5 years after that, 5, 6 years after that. And Weller rings me up when I'm just leaving the rehearsal room and says, I've got your new single. I love it. I really like your voice, man. Do you want to write some songs together?
Wow,
and you're like,
man.
what the? And there's all these points have happened through our sort of career, which it makes me think, I'm kind of doing the right thing, I think, because otherwise we'd have knocked it on the head a long time ago. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, mate, of course. I mean, that it gets to a point where you just go, well, this isn't going anywhere. I'm not making any money. I'm just slogging my guts out. And there's so many great bands that's happened to. Unfortunately, there's a few that I remember back in the day, like seeing in various places like the Red Lion and Gravesend and a few other places. And you go, and they were brilliant, brilliant bands, tight as fuck, great tunes. But they just never got, a lot of it's luck in it. They just didn't have the luck. The luck didn't happen. And you're like, fuck, man. It's like with what I do. You're in the right place at the right time. The right person sees you and off you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's important to just keep believing in what you're doing. I mean, like, I don't profess by no means to be like loaded or anything. Like, my mates always say to me, it must be great doing what you do for a living. You do something that you love. And, I have to go to the bloody factory like when we used to work as kids. I've had all sorts of jobs. I worked in sunroof factories, building sites. I've done anything to get to the point that I'm at now. And like I say to him, I'm not like loaded. I earn enough to get by doing what I'm doing with the bands. Like, me and Neil have to run the band. It's a 24-hour job running it. We're so lucky to have like the lineup that we've got, and like people come and see us and they have a great night, But like behind all those scenes, there's lots of hard work goes on, So, when you're touring in Europe now, it's really difficult, and you'll have people coming out. You just played to like 400 or 500 people in Hamburg at the Mojo Club or something. And like, you're having people come out the venue, and I'm in the back of the van going, can I have the kick drum next, please, lads? The kick drum next. Or the snare next, please. Right. And I'm having to load everything in. Yeah. And you see these guys like looking, going, he was just singing a minute ago. But that's part of why we do it and why we love it. It's still like, by no means limousines and bleeding Simon Le Bon bloody speedboats. Do you know what I mean?
I reckon that'll happen. I reckon that's going to be the next phase. There's going to be Stone Foundation, the Rio years. It's going to be.
I can see it now.
But it is that, I think, especially in this day and age, where, because of streaming and things like that, there's like Kate Nash is doing a big thing about it at the moment with, like you get like Spotify announcing record earnings of like billions, and like, but it's like 0.003p or something for every listen that a band gets.
Oh, it's mental.
Criminal.
It's mental.
Criminal.
I was sat with Well at his studio, and we were talking about it, and the highest streamed track on our Spotify is a song that Paul sings on called Deeper Love, which we wrote, and it was on our Is Love Enough record. And that's had 1,300,000 hits, which is pretty good. You know what I mean? But Paul then informed me that when you get 1 million streams, it's the equivalent of something like $3,000.
Mate.
Which is just like, I mean, if that doesn't devalue art and music,
absolutely,
what the fuck does? Do you know what I mean?
I remember,
it's bizarre.
I remember Noel Gallagher in an interview saying, for every pound he's made, someone else has made a fiver, and you're like, fuck me. It's like with what I do. It's like we're all creatives. The actual person doing the creating is the last person to get any money from it. It seems. Yeah. And you've got like you've got Weller on your tracks. You've got Mick Talbot involved. You've sang with some of the greatest soul singers ever. You should you should be having limousine money, like.
Yeah, but it's almost like, I always feel that the art always seems to mirror society. And society is based in a way where it's stacked against you. It's always stacked against you. The working class man is always like having to fight a million times harder than the guy who's like got, I don't know, a boat and a bloody Porsche or a bloody, you know what I mean? About 3 or 4 houses scattered around. It's so hard to break into that part of society, just as it's so hard to break into those upper echelons of like the music industry or the entertainment industry, you know. And I gave up on like worrying about being sort of mainstream, I guess, a long time. I don't think we ever thought in that way anyway. But like, I feel so blessed that we can call this our job, or I could call this my job, you know, and we've just recorded our 11th studio album at Paul's place, The Revival of Survival. We've got people like Omar and people like that singing on it, which is really great.
I fucking love Omar, man.
Yeah, it was mad. I love him. I probably loved him a bit too much when he got to the studio because he went to shake my hands and I hugged him. And he went, "Oh, right, you're an hugger." And I went, sorry, mate. I love you. I love your music.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a bit like a little bloody puppy dog when I meet people that I love. You know,
I'm the same, man. I remember when I was with my ex, and we, you know, she was a bit further up the chain than I was, so we were going to places and meeting all these different people, and she was always like, don't embarrass me, because I would just, and I'm like, no, I'm going to tell them that I like them, I'm not going to go quiet. And I'd be like, I'd get into these really, and then I'd end up having brilliant conversations because I'd go, you're that B-side you did back in whenever, and we did that thing, and they go, oh yeah, and then we'd have a proper chat. I reckon stay as you are, mate. Keep on. Never change.
It's brilliant, mate. I remember like going to when we did the Street Rituals record, and I flew out to Atlanta in Georgia to record William Bell's vocals for the track that was on that record, Strange People. And obviously, I was like, I was absolute Stax fanatic, like soul, as soul labels go. That was the main label for me. And I remember walking into his studio and being so overawed with everything and just like thinking, wow, I can't believe I'm here. And like literally the first picture I saw as you walked in a hallway of gold discs was him and Snoop Dogg on stage together, which was really weird. He chose to put that pride of place. And then like recording with him, which was, you know, we've had so many moments like that where we just kind of, you know, where you're sort of a bit lost for words. But we supported Weller at the Royal Albert Hall,
mate.
And I met Ronnie Wood.
Oh wow!
And like I was coming up at catering. And he was coming the other way with the most mental. I always remember just seeing his shoes. They were like trainer type shoes, and they had all glitter and gold and everything on. And it was like, yep, here comes a Rolling Stone. Do you know what I mean? And like, I could barely get my words out. I went, Ronnie, big fans. We've played with your mate Kenny Jones before. We love you, man. We love you. And he went, oh, no worries, no worries. And as I'm talking to him, and just see out the corner of my eye, you know how big our band is.
Yeah.
About 9 other dudes walking up the stairs, all from our band. And I'm thinking, here they all come. And then as I turned back, it was like they were all meeting the Queen. They were all going like that. And he was walking down the frigging queue, you know what I mean?
And all bowing. Oh, good to see you. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So this is it. This has been an incredible journey for you in the band, and now we've now got your latest album is coming out.
Yeah.
And did you start out wanting to be a soul band? I know you kind of talked about it briefly earlier.
I think that's the thing that connected me and She's. It was like early soul music was like something that ran through our sort of veins, really. That. And funnily enough, the thing that got me into soul as a kid was hip hop, because I was sampling all the old soul and funk records. And that really got me into soul music. And we kind of started off in that vein, sort of experimented with loads of other things for the first few recordings and whatever we did. And then we ended up coming full circle and back to it. And I guess it was probably the record To Find the Spirit and then A Life Unlimited where we sort of realised, actually, this is what we should have been doing all along.
Yeah.
And then obviously from that record, we end up going to Black Barn and doing this run of like records that I'm so proud of. I love that place. I love recording there. And Charles Weller's engineers, such a top bloke. It's just been such an amazing experience. We've obviously, like you say, worked with so many great artists over the course of these records. And this the latest one, I'm just really excited about, from everything to the artwork that was done by a guy called the C6 Sailor, which I went and saw Roisin Murphy in concert.
Oh, yeah.
Behind us, she had these amazing like MRI scans that were like pulsing and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
And I went back and I had these images in my head, and I got in touch with Murray, who's the C6 Sailor, the artist guy. And I said, is there any chance you could do something like that, but make it a little bit sort of hip-hoppy? And he came back with this, if anyone's not seen it, check out the cover for The Revival of Survival. It's just wicked, man. It kind of reminds me of the Low End Theory, you know, that Tribe Called Quest records. And it's just really, really cool. So from the sleeve to the music on the album, I think it's some of the best stuff that me and the other Neil have written. We've got, like I say, we've got Omar singing on it.
Amazing, mate.
JP. We've got a guy called, we've got Lavelle, who's on it again.
Wow.
Excuse me. Who's a fantastic soul singer. I mean, Lavelle, for me, when I first heard him, it was like discovering the modern day, what's the name? Bloody hell, I forgot his name now. He's like, God, I forgot his bloody name. It's just completely gone out of my head. But he has got that Luther Vandross, the modern day Luther Vandross. He's got that. He's got that kind of vibe to him. So it was the coughing, Rich. It was the coughing I was doing.
It's just setting you off now.
I was thinking, I'll just breathe first, and then you can use your brain again. So yeah, he's brilliant. But there's also a guy on the record called JP Bimini.
Okay.
And he's got a brilliant story. JP. We first met him at a festival in Spain. Where he was playing with a band called Speedometer,
right?
And he was fronting that. And fast forward to us meeting him, I think it was about a year or 2 years ago, and we were out on tour, and he was in Newcastle at the same time with his band, and he was telling us this story. Right, he's found out that Claire always tells me off. My girlfriend always tells me off. She said it's found, not found.
Put a T on the end.
I can hear a voice in my head as I say that shit. It's mad, isn't it? Anyway, so we found out, Richard, that he went. He got some letter or some email from someone getting in touch with him to say, "Did you know what your lineage?" Turns out he's only the Prince of Burundi.
What?
He never knew. He had to leave the country when he was young because he was like a refugee or he was fleeing, the country. He's lived in the UK, I believe, most of his life. And he got this confirmation that, so now when he goes to Burundi, he gets picked up in limousines and taken to these, and they all love him. And he's got this kind of, his voice is very similar. He reminds me of Terence Trent D'Arby.
Oh,
he's
wow.
got that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But he's got that African sound to his voice, which is really great. So, the record's packed full of great voices. I'm singing on some stuff as well, as I always do.
So you'd hope so, yeah.
Yeah. I do it occasionally now and again.
Just creeping in there.
The odd thing is when we do these records and we have say if we have female vocalists like Melba Moore or Shirley Jones at the Jones Girls and people like that singing. Is then me, like when we're rehearsing, thinking, shit, I've got to replicate this now live. So that's always good fun. But yeah, we're really proud of it, mate, to answer in a very, very long fashion. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. When's it coming out?
So it comes out on March the 28th.
Okay.
In all good record shops, full stop.
Yeah. Oh, so there's going to be physical copies.
Yeah, physical copies. We The last 4 albums have charted in the top 40 of the
Amazing.
national charts. So we're really excited about this one, and hopefully it does the same. But yeah, if people get a chance, we've got like some amazing like limited edition vinyl and CDs.
Yeah, I'll be having one of them,
well
mate. Don't worry about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, lovely.
yeah, good man.
Yeah.
And then we're on a massive tour. We're going back to Germany, Italy, Holland, Ireland, and we finish up at the end of the year at the UK. We do a full tour of the UK, and we finish up at the iconic Shepherd's Bush Empire, which I can't wait for.
That'll be a banging gig. I'm going to try and get to see you at least one of these. I need to see you because, I mean, the thing is, because of what I do, it always clashes with bands. You know, like your main night is a Saturday.
Of course,
yeah. But I'm going to make sure. So I need to see you.
I mean, the last time we were at Shepherd's Bush, mate, we had Graham Parker supporting us. I mean, I was a huge Graham Parker and the Rumour fan.
Yeah.
We had 2 supports that night. We had Graham Parker, and we had a young guy who no one knew of in 2018 called Jalen Ngonda. And now he's absolutely bloody massive. He's on every. I feel like we've given him. We always refer to it as the Stone Foundation Kiss of Life. We've had it with so many people over the years that we played with.
Yeah.
We played with Kasabian before they were known.
Mate.
They supported us in Cov, and it became massive. We did a gig with a band called Niz Loppy, who had a song about a JCB. Remember that?
I remember that. Yeah.
Massive. We played with Jalen. I think I did say to him on that tour, "You'll be big. It's all right. You're playing with us. You'll be big. You'll leave us. You'll leave us in your wake."
But what a legacy to have! All those great bands.
Now he's been on. He's on the Graham Norton show. He's on the Stephen Colbert show in the US. He's like absolutely tearing it up. Top bloke, by the way.
But I tell you what, this has been lovely, Neil. I knew it was going to be good chat. I didn't realise how good. This has been so good, mate. So good.
I thought you were going to say, I knew you were going to talk. I just didn't realise how much.
Mate, I love a guest like this because at the end of the day, it's all about the guest. And if you want to chat, I'm happy to just let you do it, especially when you've got some amazing stories. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you, Neil.
Thanks, mate.
Honestly,
thanks for having me on.
It's been a pleasure. So this has been Insane in the Membrane. This has been Neil Jones of Stone Foundation. I've been Rich Wilson, and we'll see you next time.